This is going to be a short one about the value of something called the Gestalt prayer, which was a little short kind of poem written by a guy called Fritz Perls, who was sort of the granddaddy of Gestalt therapy. Gestalt therapy is a person-centered therapy based on the idea that the root cause is internal, and that examining our relationships with people and our interpersonal skills and the way we relate to others and the way we empathise with others is the central spoke of getting better at coexisting with our fellow man and having kind of healthy connections, and recognising what we do to kind of exacerbate problems in interpersonal relationships and things like that. That is a really bad explanation, but if you do want to learn more about Gestalt therapy, go right ahead. It fascinates me. So yeah, if you want to get a more decent explanation, then you need to go to somebody who's slightly better with words than me and can kind of boil it down a bit better than that. But Fritz Perls did write a little poem which I guess kind of summed up how he felt about Gestalt therapy at that time when he was working in the institute, when he was developing the idea with his wife, I believe, in the 60s. So I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm just going to explain very briefly why I feel that it's a great little poem to tap into how I use tarot and how tarot can be used, and sort of the good feelings that it can generate with regard to personal responsibility and ideas about autonomy and interdependence, if you see what I mean. So here's the little poem. I do my thing and you do your thing. I am not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you are not in this world to live up to mine. You are you and I am I, and if by chance we find each other, it's beautiful, and if not, it can't be helped. Okay, so this poem is quite popular in pop psychology and in modern ideas about psychotherapy, and I've noticed often that it's been bandied about quite a lot on the internet, but that last line, if not, it can't be helped, is often omitted. So it's kind of taken out because I think it's viewed a little bit as harsh, or maybe not constructive, maybe a little bit flippant, or I don't really care. But I think that last line is really important because sometimes we cannot make that connection, or we cannot forgive, or we cannot forge forward, and it can't be helped. So I think that last line is important. The reason I think that the Gestalt prayer taps into tarot so perfectly is because quite often when people come for a tarot reading, they might feel the temptation, or they might feel entitled, to focus more on another person and on another person's mistakes than on themselves and on their own mistakes. And yes, tarot can be used for that, and there are plenty of people around who will use tarot for that and who will give you exactly what you want in that area. But I'm not entirely certain myself that it's the most helpful way of using a tool like tarot. I think if you go to a tarot reader and you ask a question like, what's going on in my friend's relationship? I think it might be healthier and more positive and would give more long-lasting nourishment if you were to change that question through making it centred on yourself and your role. So change it from what's going on in my friend's relationship to what is my role? What role do I play in my friend's relationship? Or how can I make things more positive for my friend while she's going through this, Or why do I feel so negatively about the relationship that she has with her boyfriend? So instead of projecting and instead of being more concerned with what's going on with other people, we actually arrive at the understanding that tarot is a tool for self-development, self-empowerment, self-knowledge and self-reflection. And I think the same is very true with people who've betrayed us, or people who've betrayed our trust or lied to us. A lot of queerants will go to a tarot reader asking why their partner cheated, if their partner is cheating, do they have any reason to be suspicious, what is their ex-partner doing now, and are they now with the person they cheated on them with, that kind of thing. It's very easy to get caught up in that, and I've watched queerants get caught up in that, and I've eventually told them frankly that they are caught up in that and that it is not helping them. It's not helping them to move forward. If you were betrayed, then there is nothing you can do about that betrayal. You can analyse it, you can stew in it, you can become completely fixated upon it, but there is nothing that you can do to turn back time. It doesn't matter how closely you analyse and dissect the situation and wonder why that person betrayed you. That betrayal has taken place, and so now you are left with building blocks from which you can begin to build on the foundation of what's left over. and the building blocks need glue. And glue is your intuition, your self-knowledge, your understanding that you've learned something, your understanding that you want to forge forward and not be bitter. And tarot is the perfect tool for that glue. It's the paste, if you will. It's going to help you put things back together. If you focus more on the fact that it's broken down than you have on the fact that you now wish to rebuild, then you're not going to get very far with tarot, because tarot actually pushes you to explore. It pushes you beyond your boundaries. So I think it's very important to begin with the self, and that often starts with changing up a question. So if you notice that your question, or the question of your querent, is far more focused on other people in the situation and on what they're doing and on what they're feeling, then it's very important to try and focus on the question first of all and see how the question could be healthier, see how the question could be more helpful. Because tarot is person-centered, and I think that if we are looking constantly at what our ex-partner or what our parents or what a particular friend or whoever, our boss, have done to offend us and upset us, then we're not looking at what's going on inside, at how we're dealing with that offence and how we're dealing with that disappointment. So I think the Gestalt prayer is really great for reminding us that nobody on this planet is put there to fulfill our expectations. And if our expectations or our happiness hangs solely on the actions of another person, then we're screwed. That's the bottom line. We're absolutely screwed. When someone comes for a tarot reading, they should be encouraged to focus on themselves, because a lot of the time when people are upset or affronted, they often talk more about the other person's feelings than they do about their own. And you'll notice that. You don't have to be a tarot reader to notice that. That is very easily noticeable with a lot of people. They don't focus on what's going on in here. They talk about what he said and what she said and what they must feel, and the insecurity that comes from knowing that they must hate me, or, you know, they must feel this, or they went and did that, so it must mean that. Let's not think quite so much about what other people are doing and what other people are saying, because we can't control that. It doesn't matter how many cards we draw to try and convince ourselves that, you know, this person left us for a certain reason, or this person betrayed us for this reason and it wasn't anything to do with us. It doesn't matter how many cards we pick for that. It's not going to help us to get to how we're going to heal. Healing is done from within. And another thing that I would say when you're focusing on interpersonal relationships is to focus on the cycles. You know, if there's something that goes wrong again and again, a vicious cycle that has perpetuated itself over time and hasn't really been dealt with, then we need to look at the root cause, and the root cause is very often internal. Don't be tempted to use tarot as a tool that's going to validate your opinion, that's going to make you feel stronger in your opinion, that's going to give you more reason to hate somebody else or lambast somebody else, or it's going to give you more reason to feel self-righteous or superior. Yes, it's terrible to be betrayed, and yes, you feel that victimhood deeply, and you feel that you are superior because you'd never do that to somebody else and they shouldn't have done it to you. Sure, I can appreciate that. But if you drop anchor with that feeling of superiority, then you're not focusing on what you are stagnant on, what you need help with, how you need to heal and grow. It's very, very easy to sit there and allow tarot cards to be interpreted into messages that mean you were right, he was wrong, you deserve to feel hurt, you deserved better, and all that kind of stuff. Of course, it's very easy to interpret tarot that way because it is open to interpretation. It's subjective, and that's why people favour different readers, and that's why people go to different readers and stick with one reader or another, because they appreciate their particular style and their particular interpretations. If tarot was like maths and there was only one right answer, then we'd only need one tarot reader. The fact that it comes so much down to style and so much down to interpretation and how the cards are read and utilised means that we often try and find a reader we can stick with and get along with, you know, because tarot is so subjective. So I think it's very easy to get stuck with allowing tarot to validate you and make you feel better and make you feel secure in the fact that you don't need to change anything and you didn't do anything wrong and it was all everybody else's fault. And I think when you're hurt, it's completely understandable that you'd want to stay there. But with the Gestalt prayer and any kind of suggestion like that, that it's not about the other person, and that other person does not exist to fulfill you, you need to fulfill yourself. With that in mind, I think it proves that we can only really have healthy contact with other people when we stop projecting our expectation. And if we are too focused on our expectation in tarot, then we are missing a really good healthy part of the food of tarot, which is, what do we expect from ourselves? Never mind what we expected from other people, never mind the ways in which they fell desperately short of our expectations. What do we expect from ourselves, and how are we going to react to betrayal or disappointment with confidence and positivity and with the desire to be healthy? So yeah, we need to keep that in mind, and I think the Gestalt prayer is it's a jumping point for me sometimes in a lot of ways. And a lot of the readings that I used to offer face to face and on the shop did used to have quite a focus on how the querent felt about other people and how other people responded to the querent. And I've gotten rid of a lot of that now, or I've omitted a lot of those parts of the reading, or I've changed things up. For example, there's a reading on my shop called the ex-partner reading, and that is a very popular reading. It's the most popular one I sell online. And when I first began offering that reading, it was because of popular demand. There were a great many people kind of saying, in all walks of life that I've done tarot, everywhere, online, face to face, people saying to me, can I have a reading that focuses on my ex-partner and what my ex-partner thought, and if my ex-partner cheated and what my ex-partner's doing now, and if we're going to get back together? And of course, when you have popular demand for something, when you have a lot of people requesting something from you, you want to fulfill that demand. You want to give the querent something that caters to what they're interested in. But when I first devised the ex-partner reading, it was very centred on the absent third party. And although, of course, I did say that I would draw cards to focus on how to heal and how to move forward and how to learn from the lessons that the relationship has given and that kind of thing, I still allowed quite a lot of focus on why what went wrong did go wrong, and what the partner feels now and what the partner will have felt then. And this is not my business, this is not my area of expertise, this is not what I feel is personally helpful, and I really don't feel it's personally helpful, because I really feel that we need to start with the root cause, we need to start with the common denominator, we need to begin within, and then our reaction to whatever has happened to us will change. We can't change what's happened to us, but we can change our perspective on it, we can change the angle at which we're looking from it. And that's much more what I want to promote with tarot. So I have changed things, and I have developed things over time to tap into the Gestalt prayer and to tap into that idea that we are not in existence to fulfill each other's expectations, and we shouldn't press those expectations onto each other. And that's not what tarot is there to do. It's not there to allow us to sit pretty and say, well, he fell short of my expectations, therefore, he's not to be trusted and he's less of a person than I am, or whatever it is. It's there to challenge who we are and how we can be more of a person, the kind of person that we want to be. So yeah, the Gestalt prayer is beautiful, I think, and I think it's a great starting point. And I think if you are just starting to offer readings, or you're considering getting a reading to focus on something like, for example, a past relationship or a friendship that went awry, anything that involves other people and how you relate to other people, even if it's colleagues in the workplace, whatever it is, remember to go into it wanting to learn something about yourself. Of course, there's going to be a focus on the other people involved, but let the focus be person-centered. Let it be about how you respond and how you're going to react and what you're going to do to change your perspective or to change your feeling. So begin with the question. If you've got an overwhelming question that you really want to address to the tarot cards, look at that question and see if it's actually got a lot more to do with other people and their wrongdoings than it does have to do with you and what you could potentially change, or how you can move forward in light of the actions of other people. If your question has you nowhere in there, then you need to change up the question. Change up the question so it's more about you than it is about them, because at the end of the day, you have no control over them. And that's the really painful lesson that we need to get to. That's the painful lesson we need to embark on learning. We have no control over their actions. We can only control how we act in light of that, how we respond to it, or how we are proactive in order to instigate a change in our environment to better us and to make us feel like we have well-being and we have perspective and we are being true to ourselves and our beliefs. So yeah, the question should always be centered on the person, and I think that's how tarot works best. Thanks for listening.